Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the JNUC, day 3. Our presenter this morning is Alexander Wolpart from Computer Center over in Germany. So we're going to do this entire session in German. Who speaks German? Guten Morgen, ich bin Kyle. Ich arbeite Jampf. Sorry, that's about all the German I know. But again, Alexander Wolpart from Computer Center. Why don't you come on up, man? And we're going to talk about the user-based configuration for applications. So, Alexander, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi. Hello, my name is Alex Wolpert. I hope everybody had a nice evening yesterday, nice party, and yeah, welcome today. What I feel today, it's kind of an idea for a present. For the community, it's a new tool. It's just started to develop this tool, so it's quite at the start point. It's an idea on how we can do things in the future. To introduce myself, it's Alexander Wolpert. I'm from Computer Center Germany. It's actually, if you don't know it, it's a company based with a headquarters in the UK. We are working for mostly enterprise companies with a headquarters in Germany or in Europe. And my experience is most for macOS, but we also do a lot of these mobile iOS and mobile projects. So what we're doing today, my presentation is going to, first of all, show you a big picture. What is app deployment for and what configuration methods we are using. And therefore, I want to show you a new tool I've uploaded to GitHub yesterday. So after my session, I will show you the link so you can just grab on this project, commit to it, and just help to get this built up and running for the future. The next thing I want to show is how we can integrate the user configuration framework with the now Jamf Pro or Jamf products. And there's a small demo time. I will show you a small video on how we can use this framework with the macOS platform. And last of all, I will show you I will give you a vision, what I see for the future for the project. So let's get in. App deployment configuration methods. Why do we need a new tool? What is the scope for the tool? We at Computer Center, we see our slogan is enabling users. Computer Centers enabling users with their work. So what's important for us is the user experience on how they can work, how they can do their job to deliver the best work to the company they are working for. To configure apps from our admin perspective, we have an app deployment and we have an app configuration. And there are different methods. We can deploy apps via PKG, DMG, or the new VPP program. But on the other side, we need to configure these apps. And there are apps out there which have to be configured independently. So one of them can be configured via Apple configuration profiles, and other of them need to be configured via scripts. And today in my session, we are focused on these configurations, these apps which need to be configured via scripts. So what types do we have? We have system-level configurations. That's something Apple or Jamf can do. The products just configure things out on the system level. We have user-level configs, and when we see on these user-level configurations, they are configurations for all users or configurations per user. And as told, we can set it via configuration profile or script. So we are focused on configurations set per user today and set it via scripts. Just to give you an overview of what we are talking here. So, for example, I've here Microsoft Outlook. It's a special case. Microsoft built it up to configure it only via Apple script. So it's a script-based configuration and on the hoverable Apple script. So yeah, There's other examples for example, Cisco, AnyConnect, or Skype for enterprise, WebEx, all these things. And the other thing is keychain handling. And I've shown you here on the lower right side, it's just an open thing. You can configure everything what you see in your company based on script-based configuration. I will show you in my demo video just our configuration for Outlook and some other kind of configuration to give you an experience on what you can do with the framework. What do we do when we configure things with scripts? Normally we use Python, we actually use Bash scripts, or if it must be, for example, for Outlook, we have to use Apple script. What are our barriers? What are our showstoppers? Script needs to run in user context. That's always a pain. How do we configure non-cabarized services? Or if it's a cabarized service, how do we handle that? Configs needs maybe defined app states. Is the app open? Is the app closed? In which state is the app at the moment when we want to configure it? And last of all, we need maybe a user password to configure some kind of application or service on the macOS platform. So what is the barrier here? The JSS or the Jamf Pro, Pro product runs as root on our computers. So if we want to configure things in the user context, we use these launch control as user, or if only it was launch control be as execute, or sudo so to configure things in the user context. It's possible, but it's every time kind of scripting and what is a higher level on how you can configure these things. Why do we not do this on a user level directly with the user rights? Why do we have to run these in root context and then launch control it as user and run it in the user context? That's a showstopper. So for example, if I want to configure an Outlook instance or a Jabber instance, which is not cabarized at the customer, I need to ask, I log in the first time to the computer, and then I need to ask the user with a pop-up message, for example, with Cocoa Dialog or Jamf Helper, to ask him, hey, please type in your password. I take the password, and then I can configure his application. It's always a pain, asking someone for his password. Why do I have that? The user already logged into a session. He has typed in his password. Why do not use this password? So what's in the box? Let's check it out. What brought Gigi and uploaded to GitHub yesterday. There's 3 components. We have a UserConfigAgent plugin. We have a UserConfigAgent, it's called GUI agent. It's running in the Aqua session. And we have called middleware. It's an XPC service talking between the plugin and the GUI agent. So I wrap it together in one flat package. If you download the project from GitHub, you just build one package. It's all wrapped together, and you can deploy it out to your computers. So what are we talking about in detail here? When we see the macOS runtime, we have a starting point. The computer boots up. We see the login window, and you have to log in there. Type in your username, type in your password, and then you're ready to go to proceed to the Aqua session you're working in. The other thing is we have, when we are in our Aqua session and we want to stop our work, normally we do just a lock screen or go to screensaver, and we have to lock the session. So when we come back, we have to retype our password to get in our Aqua session again. So that's something on the macOS runtime Jamf and Apple is doing for us. We can execute policies on startup, on shutdown, all these things, on login, log out. That's fine. But what we are focused on, user configuration framework starts at the login window and stops if you log out of your Aqua session. So there are 3 components. It's login window plugin, and it's user configuration for the GUI, Aqua session, and the XPC service. And that's what we are focusing on today, these 3 components together. So what's the login plugin for? Login plugin, just check. it's just a login plugin. So Apple also uses a lot of login plugins, if you not know that. There are quite a lot of them. And it runs in the login session when you are logging in. And the thing is, when we are logging in, we have environment variables. I know your username, and I know your password in this stage. Not especially me, but the tool knows it. Yeah. The GUI agent, as I told, it's a UI. It's running in the Aqua session, and this part is doing the actual configuration for the user environment. And as I told you, when we log in, we have the password. The tool has the password, and now we need a connection to get this password for our configurations. As I told you, for example, for Outlook or Jabber. And what's the XPC agent doing? Yeah, it's just a middleware. It's between our plugin and the GUI agent. And it runs also in the Aqua session. And it holds in the memory the password from the actually current Aqua user. So what are we doing? How can we configure things in the user Aqua session? Well, as I told you, we need to define a target app, what kind of app I want to configure. For example, I need a bundle identifier, Microsoft Outlook, Cisco, Jabber, whatever. Yeah? I need a target app state. Is the app open? Is the app closed? I can define it here in the configuration file. I will show it later. And I want to define maybe some repeat cycles. When I wanted to configure something once, always, or if I have a configuration I never want to execute, I can set it to never. It's like Apple showed us in the past, so we aligned it here, that we have we're doing the thing like Apple is doing it. And we define if you want to provide a password in your configuration. Maybe there are configurations, you don't need any password, so don't pass it in any configuration. It's maybe a security hole, so only use it if you really need the password for. And there's a visualized message key. So if you want to show some UI to the user, you have to define the visualized message key with a custom message you want to present to the user. Just to give you an overview on how's configuration looking like, that's an example for, as I told you, Outlook. It's in a target app state where it's launched. I want to configure Outlook the first time I launch it. Not when I log into the Aqua session. I only want to configure it when I click the button Outlook. The target app is my Microsoft Outlook, and I want to execute a script. And you can see the script path, what's doing the actual job of the configuration. Yeah? And on the repeat cycle key, I just said, okay, I want to configure it once, because when it's configured, we can use Outlook. We don't do that anytime. And what I said, I want to show my user a visualized message. Here it's called Configuring Microsoft Outlook 2016. And in the provide password key, I said it's true because I need the password when it's not a categorized Outlook instance at the customer. So what are the required keys? Actually, that's a full-blown configuration I showed you. We actually, for the first step, we only need a script path. What do you want to execute to configure? And you need a repeat cycle. Do you want it once, always, or never? And they're kind of optional keys. So the target app, you can define an app, what kind of app you want to configure. And you can also optionally define in which state this app has to be. If you not define it, it doesn't matter. So you can log in, then you configure it directly, or you say, I set a target app state, and then it needs to be launched or it needs to be closed. It identically needs to be defined in which state the app is. And yeah, these visualize message and provide password are also optional. So how to get this together? We have these three components. It's the GUI agent, that's the main component. We have the plugin, and we have the XPC service holding the password for us. The GUI agent reads in our configurations, evaluates this configuration based on the keys we set there, and then executes the scripts we defined in our configuration files. So sum it up, it's a user configuration, and we can provide optionally a password to the configuration files. How to get this together? JSS, Jamf Pro, Jamf Now, whatever. And this configuration, user configuration framework, it's actually just a package. So deploy it to any kind of computer you want via the framework. It's just you deploy any other package, that's fine. Where do we deploy to? As I told you, it's a login plugin. So the login plugin is stored actually in the macOS environment. It's library security, security agent plugins, and they are always stored. And all the other components, the GUI agent and also the the XPC service is stored within the plugin bundle. It's all combined together. The configuration files are stored at Library Application Support User Configuration Agent. There are two subfolders. It's configs, where you deploy your configs to, or there's another folder, it's called scripts, where you deploy the scripts for. That's optional. You can define there in a plist file, in the configuration plist of the framework, you can define just another path. That's the default path to use. Yeah, how to get this together? First of all, we need to build and deploy user configuration framework. Just download it from GitHub, build it, and then upload it to JSS, deploy it to all your computers. That's the first step we need. The second one is we need to know, or you need to define what kind of configurations you want to set on each computer in the Aqua session. So the second thing is build up or wrap up your config and script files and deploy it to the machines based on, for example, here with the Jamf product, the scope for smart groups, static groups, all what's possible with the framework here. Here, just to show you a small example on how I tested it in our environment. It's the user configuration framework. I said it's ongoing as long as you're in scope from the smart group. And then I deployed two configuration files. The first one is disable the Outlook setup assistant. And the second one is I want to configure Outlook when it started the first time. So let's go to a small demo, and it's a small video. So just relax and take a look at what we have done here. Before I show you the video, I will show you. I will give you the info. It's the UI is just optional. So if you do not display the UI with the visualize message key, you actually do not see anything. So in my demo, there are a couple of configurations. I set the visualize message to true and typed in some custom messages that you can see anything. Yeah? So one thing we see with a couple of other configurations is it's Microsoft Outlook configuration on the first launch. And you also see here, I defined the target app state. I said it needs to be launched. I want it once. I need the password, and I want to show some custom message. The other thing is, just a completely different example is, what we do is, I want to configure, for example, the wallpaper of the Aqua session. Or I want to give the user a user documentation on their desktop. That's also possible here. So in this case, I don't need a target app state. I don't need a target app, actually. The only thing I want to define is I want to do that always, because when the user trash these user documentations, he gets, next time he logs in, gets it back on his desktop. One thing is the login keychain and service password. That's in the second part of the video. I will show you how we can handle changes on your password. For example, if you're bound to a directory service and you change, and you are in the lock screen session and you change the password on another instance, then you have to re-log in with a new password from the directory service. But the keychain don't know about it. So how to handle that? You need the old password, you need the new password, how to do that? Let's start. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's open source. It's on GitHub. It's github.com. It's alex030 UserConfigAgent. So just get your hands on. I had very little time of development and testing. It was 3 days, okay? And so it's just an idea on what we can do in the future. It's doing what it should at the moment, but I think we need to go there deeper with some developers and get these kind of things together and our ideas and to push that forward. Join the project and help us to push it. Yeah. Next steps, what do I see? I see, please commit your use cases and configuration script. For example, I've got a customer he's using a non-categorized proxy service. Proxy service needs username and password. Maybe you all know these pop-up message coming up from macOS. There's no checkbox for if you want to store the password in the keychain. It's just stored every time in the keychain. So we have the password. We can just set it in the keychain. We don't need these pop-up messages in the future anymore. Yeah. And the second thing is what I see. I want to get rid of these configuration scripts. I will know that there's coming a question: how do we sit with the security based on this password service, based on the password we have here? It's just in the memory in the XPC service. But at the moment, when we want to configure things and we provide the use password key, then we need to pass these passwords via STD into our scripts. And that's a security call, because when you log anything out of your scripts in the syslog or whatever, you have the password, and that's not what you have. That's not what we want to see in the future. I want to have these passwords only stored in the user configuration agent and not piping out anywhere. So just read in our configs, and the framework should do all the things we commit to our project here, what we've done formally with the execution scripts. I want the framework to do that in the framework itself. And last of all, thanks for inspiring me. It's Google with the key, maybe you know it. It's the Keychain Miner project, and it's a guy from GitHub. It's Tom Bergen. Thanks a lot him for the NSXPC development and other projects. I've learned a lot from here. And all customers pushing things like that, I like it. Thanks a lot, man.
See, is this on? Oh, it is on. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Alex. So while you're talking, a lot of questions came through. So here we go. The first one was, what if a user changes password in a session after login? How is that handled if my password expires or I decide it's time to re-up that?
Okay, so if the user changes the password, that's not a use case we actually have seen at the moment in the framework. So we only have the password at login or when you come back from the screen log session. That's a good thing. Maybe we can build in something in the future here.
Next one we had was, how is the user's password stored within the framework? I think you touched on this a little bit, but
yeah.
If you could just say it again so that everyone knows where that is.
Actually, it's the plugin is connecting to our XPC service, and it's NSXPC connection. So we pipe it via NSXPC connection to the actual XPC agent, and he stores the password in the memory.
And then as a follow-up to that, a good question was, how is this password secured against leaks, attacks? Because in a day of passwords, we don't want those things to get out in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing I told you. So what I see in the future, my vision is that we don't want to pipe that out to any scripts. I want to get these stored directly in the framework. At the moment, yeah, it's kind of a security risk here if you pipe it out anywhere, yeah.
Next question was, what versions of Mac OS are required for this? Are you just testing on newest version, like OS and Sierra?
Exactly. I've tested it on 10.11 and 10.12, but as I told you, I just had a little testing time. So, yeah, it should work on other platforms. Of course, it's aligned a lot from the Keychain Miner project, and they tested it on, I think it was 10.8, 10.9. It's all running. Yeah.
People are still running those versions of OS 10 or Mac OS? Next up question was, how would you set up a keychain fix if as a policy in self-service?
What's it again?
So kind of working in self-service to a keychain fix. I think kind of hitting around the idea of If I'm binding to Active Directory, I think this is where it's going. If I'm binding to Active Directory, I change my password somewhere else, the keychain and the device can get out of sync sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So we have the password. So when you re-log in, for example, I have your new password. So I can update the keychain. That's no problem. Or I can, just to let you know that if you want to update the login keychain, it's a private API from Apple. So yeah, we have to use this private API as long as we do not host this on the App Store. It shouldn't be a problem if you use it internally, the in-house apps.
This is a pretty neat question here. Is there a way that you can also pass the login credentials to a website rather than a specific application? So if we have an internal website or something that they wanted to get access to.
Yeah, exactly. So we have the password. You can do whatever you want. So just configure. That's a use case I want that you committed. So if you have a use case, we can pipe to a website or whatever. Just let us know or commit anything to GitHub. So yeah, shouldn't be a problem here.
Cool. Looks like the repo has already been posted to the hashtag, so it's out there live on Twitter now. Everyone knows where the repo is. Another question that came in is, will this work for local standard users, local administrators, directory accounts? Is there any requirement to what type of login that I'm using?
No, it isn't. So you can use it with a normal standard user. You can use it as admin. You can use it with directory users. That shouldn't be the problem. That's just it's running in the Aqua session. So when we are once in, it's our user. So we just can configure it there. And what I've included, I've not shown you here, but it's written on GitHub in the README file. You can exclude users. So what I did in my configurations, I said, I don't want to run this. If I log in as root to the UI, I don't know if it's doing that, but if you do that, I excluded root, for example. Or if you have some local administrators your company is using, I also excluded this one. Of course, I don't want them to run some configurations on the computer.
Let's see, the next one, I think you covered this slightly, but there is an applet or a file or group of files that you put into the login area. Are there any other files that this repo puts onto the machine, or are they mainly just in that location?
They are all on the library security plugin. That's all bundled in these plugins together. So these three components are directly stored there. So what I did is that's a plugin, and within the plugin and the resource folders, there are our GUI agent and the XPC service agent.
This is a good one. Will you be making your slides/demo video available after your session today?
I think so, because you will host that or as videos. So.
Yep. We will certainly host the session that's being recorded today, and then I'm not sure if Jamf will actually host the slides, but we can chat about that after, about kind of maybe where we can throw
otherwise you can see it in the video. You can see my videos. So, but doesn't matter. So I will. Maybe also upload this keynote to GitHub. Maybe it makes sense.
A video within a video, is that kind of Inception style? All right, I'm just refreshing Twitter here to see if there's anything else coming through. Looks like it's slightly dried up. I guess I'll turn it out to the crowd at large here. Looks like there are a few questions. I see a hand in the back. I'll slowly come up to you here. And I'll keep watching Twitter. If you can use Twitter, it saves me steps. All right. What do you got, sir?
For the example for Outlook, I was curious if you can parse the keychain information to the user login if the license is applied to the user as opposed to the site license.
That one to you. Wow. That's a big one.
Specifically in regards to Outlook, in examples of when the license is applied to the user as opposed to a site license, can the credentials be passed to the license asking the user to log in during the setup process for Outlook setup?
Are you kind of in Office 365?
Yeah, specifically for Office 365.
Yeah, sure. That's one thing the framework cannot do at the moment, because we've not built in any of these logic in the framework currently. But if you write a script, who can handle that? Dude. I've done this at other customers, so I've got scripts just doing exactly these things, so it's possible to do it. It's currently, because I've written it for customers, it's not open source. So if you want to write some kind of things, I'd like to see it that you open source it and upload it to the project.
It sounds like you're open to collaborators.
Sure.
Awesome, awesome. Just checking Twitter here again. It looks like it's pretty cool. Any other questions from the crowd at large? Oh, I got you, sir. What do you got?
If a configuration fails or doesn't work for whatever reason, is there...
Yep. So if a configuration fails, if something doesn't go as planned, logging, retries, anything like that built in currently?
That's something I want to see in the future. So if I talk to my colleagues and we thought about this vision of what we can do there in the future, I just want to tell the framework, please configure Outlook. And I want to I don't want to see these features or things. That's not my problem. I want to tell the framework, do it, and then the framework has to do it. So if it fails, he has to retry or whatever. So that's what I see in the future. We have to build this product or this framework the way that we can just tell them what to do, and the framework does the work for us. What I see is I want to get this in the framework together. I want to write kind of receipts, like, for example, Apple Automator actions. I want to tell them the app needs to be closed, the app needs to be launched. There are dependency maybe for other apps or services. So what I see is that we need an environment for the future that we can say, just do it, and the work is done for us.
Anybody else? See if I have questions. All right, coming to you, sir.
For the examples you have available, or did I just hear you say that you wrote those for customers and they're closed source?
Good question. So open source or closed source for the scripts that are out there currently?
Yeah, so actually open source is only the framework, the 3 components I showed you. All the configuration scripts I used here, it's not open source. So that's just to give you an idea what can be done with a framework. These simple things like we need to set a doc, or we need to set a wallpaper or user documentation, and then the higher level things, you want to configure apps in a defined state. And maybe that's interesting how I detect these states. So when I'm logged into the Aqua session and I'm running as agent, then there's based on NS Workspace shared applications. I know exactly what's going up, if the app is closed or if it's launched or whatever, so I can act on these actions and NS Workspace tells me to do.
Let's see, anything else? You got to raise your hand really high in the back. It's a little bit hard to see with the lights here. Anything else? All right, Alex, do you have anything else that you'd like to add? Otherwise, thank you so much for coming.
Get your hands on, commit your ideas.